What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Check the Kick podcast. I am the host, Devin. Sherdog.com is the website, and we are back off of a small hiatus. I took a couple weeks off. I was pretty sick, and then it was my birthday, and I had some family in town. So I decided to take a little break. Not too much going on in combat sports. I did not get a chance to talk about Fury and Usyk. So that is a little bit crappy. I did want to talk to you guys about that. And Usyk, won that fight in pretty impressive fashion. Fury looked great as well. One of the better boxing matches that I've seen in a while. Great fight, but that was a couple of weeks ago. We are going to skip the first segment of the show out with the old, because there's really no old. And we're going to move right into the middle segment of the show, which is now going to be the first segment of the show, What's Hot. And we are going to be talking about none other than the infamous and notorious Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor was seen in a nightclub. I think this was last night, maybe a Saturday night, the 25th of May. But for lack of better terms, he was wilding out. He has been going on some live Twitter rants, like with a streamer. And then now this in the club. And it's very interesting because it's 5 weeks away from his fight against Michael Chandler. Not too sure how serious he's taking this fight. Maybe he's taking the Ryan Garcia approach. I don't know. I don't think he is. I don't think that that's very likely. It's just not the best look for him. But I think we're at the point in his career where we all know pretty well that Conor McGregor isn't really he's not a fighter anymore. He's much more of a businessman trying to make himself popular, stay famous, do what he needs to do in the limelight. And based off of how long it took for this fight to even come together after The Ultimate Fighter, wasn't The Ultimate Fighter like in 2022? Jesus. Yeah, Conor doesn't give a shit about fighting Michael Chandler. I'm not convinced he cares. Not convinced he cares at all. And he probably sees Michael Chandler as a really easy fight. And honestly, in Conor's, I hate to say the prime Conor, in Conor's heyday, I'll say that, he probably was a really bad matchup for someone like Michael Chandler, who's, a big puncher, but kind of defensively porous. Chandler does have all of the tools to beat someone like Conor McGregor just with his athleticism and his wrestling and his willingness to go back to it. And Michael Chandler is a much better wrestler than he's shown in the UFC. But I think he's here just for exciting fights, short, fun time, not a long time type thing. But it is pretty interesting. I think the Michael Chandler that had those battles with Eddie Alvarez probably could have fared better against a Conor McGregor, but we will see. This fight will be contested at welterweight as well. I mean, I guess Conor looked good at his one showing. Oh, he's had a couple showings at welter if you include the Diaz fights, but Diaz fight. But his last time out against Cowboy, that was a welterweight bout. His last time out at welterweight against Cowboy, he looked good there. He looked fast, but he kind of went out there and just made Cowboy crumble, got through him like that. So I'm not sure what we will see. It's kind of sad that these are the kind of fights. This is the kind of stuff that's headlining the UFC in 2024. And yeah, Conor's a huge star, but I don't know if he's top level MMA in 2024. I don't. Tough to call. Tough to say where he's at in the stage of his career after the two Dustin Poirier losses. The second fight with Poirier was a really bad loss for him. He got knocked out and kind of just outclassed by Dustin Poirier in their second fight. And in the third fight, he was getting beat by Poirier, and then the leg break and all that and stuff like that's hard to come back from. We know he has clearly also been kind of I'm saying clearly, but it's not confirmed. But the USADA stuff with the steroids and using performance enhancing stuff, or maybe stuff that was on the ban list to heal up. And then now that USADA's gone, he's kind of circling back. We saw the way he looked in the Roadhouse movie. We saw those interviews with him during promoting the Roadhouse where he looked like he was high as a kite and not looking well. He had got some spare change look in his eyes. It's just kind of, it's also a little bit brave for the UFC to kind of push all their chips to the center of the table when it comes to a guy like Conor McGregor in 2024, because he just doesn't seem reliable or trustworthy to me, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. Figured I would give you guys a tidbit on that. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm interested to see what you guys have to say. I'm interested to see if this fight even happens. Like, more than likely, Conor, it's Conor, and if he signs up for a fight, he usually always shows up. I'm curious to see how the weight cut looks. I'm curious to see how they both perform with no USADA. I mean, look at Michael Chandler, the dude. We're going to talk about a guy later that, may benefit from no USADA coming back and fighting again pretty often. But yeah, Michael Chandler looks jacked as hell too. So we'll see how he looks. And we'll see how Conor looks on that date. I'm pretty excited for it. One of my fellow colleagues, Mr. J, he kind of rounds all of us up for the live scoring for Sherdog, and I scored a really bad card. I forget which one it was. A couple fight nights ago, that was just a bad card, and I threw my name in the hat. I was like, hey, if I'm scoring this bad fight night, I want to be on the Dustin Poirier versus Islam pay-per-view, or I want to be on the Conor McGregor Michael Chandler pay-per-view. So I'd like to score one of those. So we'll see. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next segment of the show. All right, guys, we're going to move on to the final segment of the show. In with the new, we're going to be talking about UFC 302, headlined by Dustin Poirier and Islam Makhachev. And I have hand-selected 3 fights to talk about. I'm going to give you betting odds. I'm going to give you some fight analysis, and I'm going to tell you who I'm picking to win. This is going to be a pretty good pay-per-view. It's a little bit light towards the front half, but once we get to the main card, there's some pretty good. Once you get to the meat and potatoes, the meat, it's pretty good. I mean, we got Dustin Poirier at the top and Islam Makhachev. You can't really ever beat that. Co-main event is 2 super exciting fighters, Sean Strickland and Paulo Costa. And the first fight we're going to talk about, let me have a sip of coffee first, is Kevin Holland versus Michal Oleksiejczuk. Both of these guys are coming off of losses. Kevin Holland coming off of actually 2 of them. Real quick, let me give you the odds on this fight. Kind of surprising in my honest opinion. Kevin Holland is a minus 250 favorite. Michal Oleksiejczuk is a plus 210 dog. Interesting because Michal Oleksiejczuk has spent a large majority of his career up at light heavy, and has fought a trove of really good and really big fighters up there. He's fought dudes like Dustin Jacoby and dudes like Jimmy Crew and dudes like OSP. So Jean Vellante, like, look what happened to Jean Vellante after that. And then Kevin Holland moving back up from welterweight. He spent a long time at middleweight, and that's kind of where he made his rise, going through middleweight, knocking out dudes like Jacare Souza. And then he moved down to welter, and he looked good. Knocked out Joaquin Buckley. And since then, Kevin Holland has kind of done so and somewhat underachieved in my opinion. He had a pretty good run through middleweight. That Jacare Souza fight, that was really awesome. But then he lost to Derek Brunson, got out wrestled by Marvin Vettori, had that clash of heads with Kyle Daukaus. And then once he moved down to 170, he had that TKO win against Cowboy Oliveira. Bravo choke Tim Means, which was a really good win at that time. It was in 2022. Lost via Bravo choke right after that when he fought Hamza on very short notice. Had that really stupid fight with Kevin Holland, with Stephen Thompson, where he kind of showed his fight IQ there, knocked out Ponzi. Bravo choked Michael Chiesa. And then after that, he had a split decision loss against JDM. That Jack Della Maddalena fight was close and potentially closer than it should have been. And then last time out, I don't want to say he got embarrassed by MVP, but Michael Venom Page popped up in the UFC at like 37, 38 years old and just did MVP things to Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland looked extremely flustered and could not deal with Michael Venom Page's ability to enter the pocket, his speed, his weird elusiveness. All those things gave Kevin Holland tons and tons of issues. As for Michal Oleksiejczuk, last time out for him, he got stopped by Michel Pereira, but Michel Pereira up at middleweight looks like a fucking light heavyweight, moves like a lightweight or a featherweight, and is just dynamic and explosive as fuck. I said he got knocked out. He got clubbed and stuff. He got hurt to the body, and then he got finished via rear naked choke. Prior to that, he knocked out Chidi and Jaquani, but he lost to Caio Borralho before that, knocked out Cody Brundage, knocked out Sam Alvey. You can go to Sherdog.com if you guys want to read their whole entire fight careers with all their stats and everything. That's on Sherdog.com. I'm not going to give that to you now. I'm going to talk about the fight. Someone like Kevin Holland, I think two of his best assets are his whipping, snappy punches. He's got a lot of power when he's whipping and snapping punches. He has that really long frame, and he can hit people incredibly hard from pretty far distances. And another thing that one of his other best assets is his chin. You know, the only time I've ever really seen him wobbled and in trouble in a fight, yeah, he did get kind of clipped up his last time out against MVP, but prior to that, really the only time I've seen him, I hate to use this term in 2024 because it's probably going to piss people off, but on Queer Street, that means when you're razzled and you're flustered and you're concussed, was when he had that clash of heads against Kyle Daukaus. He was fucked up bad there, but that was a clash of heads. That was a very hard, boom, head clash between those two dudes. Looking at this fight, Kevin Holland is a dude that probably just always has a UFC career. Like, he would have to go on a BJ Penn-like streak. Sorry for not watching this on camera. I just drank some water. I'm drinking coffee, so I got to combat the coffee with the water. Otherwise, you get shaky. But Kevin Holland's probably got a UFC career for the rest of his fight career, as long as he doesn't absolutely fucking botch, lose like 6 fights in a row, because it's Kevin Holland. Everyone likes him. He's exciting. He seems to be okay with the fight purses he's making, and he seems to not have a title run in his future, in my opinion. And it kind of saddens me to say that, because actually 2023, we did a Sherdog MMA draft, and I picked him as my welterweight. And I kind of regret that. I don't know. Fight like this, I think they can both give each other a lot of problems. And I'm just going to go straight to my pick. I think I'm going to pick Michal Oleksiejczuk. This is why. Number one, the odds. If I was a betting man, I may place a couple shekels down on Michal Oleksiejczuk, and here's why. Kevin Holland's coming up a couple losses. He looked fine against JDM, but against MVP, he kind of got rattled a bit. Michal Oleksiejczuk has spent a very, very large majority of his career fighting dudes that are big and long, like Kevin Holland. The dude went to war with Dustin Jacoby. Yeah, he lost that fight, but Dustin Jacoby is a bigger, more technical, and probably harder puncher than Kevin Holland, even though Kevin Holland is a pretty hard puncher, and Jacoby really isn't known as a power puncher. But, I mean, Jacoby spent a large majority of his career in glory. Jacoby's a huge dude, bigger than Kevin Holland, and he's never really been flustered. Look at dudes like Chidi and Jaquani, stuff like that. And Kevin Holland is a bit formless, and Michal Oleksiejczuk is a really good combination puncher. His fight style really resembles someone like Jack Della Maddalena, in my opinion. He is not as technical, but he's definitely as powerful as Jack Della Maddalena. Michal Oleksiejczuk fucking cracks. He hits really hard. He's a willing body puncher. He is willing to get into the pocket and throw combinations. As long as he doesn't get his chin checked here by Kevin Holland, I think this is a fight that he can win. He needs to get Kevin on the back foot. Kevin Holland, if you look at his fight with Wonder Boy, he seemed to be very flustered when he was forced against the cage and his back was against the cage. Yeah, in the Wonder Boy fight, he was not welcoming any wrestling, and that's something that Kevin Holland can go to. If you look through Kevin Holland, he's got a lot of subs on his record, and there are a lot of like club and sub wins where he hits somebody, he hurts them, he causes them to panic wrestle, and then he hits them with a Bravo choke, or he hits them with an Anaconda or a Darce. That's something he can do, and he's sneaky there. But Kevin Holland's game is just kind of really formless, and he's really defensively porous. He's not very defensively sound. And I think Michal Oleksiejczuk, coming off of that loss, it is a quick turnaround, and that's something that I'm worried about. But it's not like he took a ton of head trauma in that fight. And both of these guys are coming off of losses. Both of these guys really can't afford to lose. Kevin Holland loses. He's on a 3-fight lose streak, and I don't think he's lost 3 fights in a row in the UFC. Let me actually look at that really quickly. Go to Sherdog.com. You can find this out. No, Kevin Holland has never gone on a 3-fight loss streak in his whole entire career, let alone in the UFC. 2 losses, Derek Brunson, Marvin Vettori, and then the Kyle Dawkins clash of heads. Hamzat Chimaev, Stephen Thompson, JDM, Michael Page. The dudes that beat Kevin Holland are also dudes that are like very, very high level. Marvin Vettori fought for a title. Thiago Santos fought for a title. I would say the worst loss on his career is probably Curtis Millender, and that was back in 2017. Or maybe Michael Venom Page. But Michael Venom Page is good. He just doesn't have the highest profile fights on his record. Man, poking through this is a really tough fight to call. I don't think the odds should be so heavily skewed in Kevin Holland's favor at all, though. Give me Michal Oleksiejczuk to push forward, punch the body, be defensively sound, get inside of Kevin Holland's boxing range. Kevin Holland is really good in the clinch as well and does have good elbows. But again, give me Michal Oleksiejczuk to make this a boxing match and go tit for tat and body punch and just maybe do more stuff and be a little bit more tenacious than Kevin Holland. That's the pick, but I don't love it. Moving on to the co-main event, we have Sean Tarzan Strickland fighting Paulo Costa, the Eraser versus the American. Odds on this fight, Sean Strickland is a slight to moderate favorite, coming in at -205. Paulo Costa is a +170 dog here, and kind of interesting fight. We have the number 1 ranked middleweight in the world fighting the number 7 ranked. These are not Sherdog rankings. These are from UFC.com. And they are both coming off of really good performances and really good fights where they both lost. Paulo Costa, UFC is gone. He's back fighting again more regularly. Good for him. I remember he had issues where his spouse was his manager and he wasn't taking fights. He wanted to fight for like $1 million or some shit, whatever. I'm glad that's all in the past. Also, word on the street is that Paulo Costa hasn't even signed this fight contract yet. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if he does this to like fuck with his opponents, where he'll like hold the contract, because he's done shit like this before where he's like signing contracts last minute. I don't fucking know. Maybe it's to kind of get in his opponent's head so his opponents don't train as hard. Don't think that works with someone like Sean Strickland, because I think Sean Strickland spends a lot of time in the gym. As you guys, if you listen to this, you're probably following him on social media. You guys are probably seeing Sean Strickland. He seems to be showing a little bit more of his life outside of the gym lately, in the desert, shooting guns, flying drones. The dude basically lives like a Mad Max life when he's not fighting. It's kind of funny. But yeah, both of these guys are coming off of good performances. Robert Whittaker in Paulo Costa's last fight, and Sean Strickland in the championship bout where he lost his belt to Dricus du Plessis via split decision. Was that Paulo Costa Robert Whittaker fight? No, that was unanimous. He buzzed Robert Whittaker with that crazy spinning wheel kick. And I think Strickland beat du Plessis his last time out. This is kind of the second time where he had a fight like this. Jared Cannonier as well, where I think Sean Strickland won both those fights. And I'm not saying that just as a Sean Strickland fan. I actually don't mind Sean Strickland's fighting style. I think it's really cool to watch, especially when he can put it all together against, like Izzy, shit like that, or Abus. This is a really tough fight to call because both of these guys can do things to each other, that can really punish each other. Paulo Costa, a big marauding giant middleweight that hits really fucking hard, throws tight hooks, has really, really dexterous kicks. And he's pretty fucking durable, and he's just a venomous fighter. And as he showed in his Robert Whittaker fight, like you can buzz him, you can hurt him, and he's still there. And he's just got these crazy high amplitude. That spinning wheel kick that he hit Robert Whittaker with was just chef's kiss, beautiful as fuck, awesome. And it's kind of similar to the shot that Eliseo Zaleski dos Santos. Can't believe I nailed that. I think I nailed it. Kind of similar to what Eliseo Zaleski dos Santos hit Sean Strickland with when he knocked him out down at welterweight. Sean Strickland, we're going to talk about him. He is a guy that has, everybody calls it this Philly shell, and I guess it is a Philly shell or a modified Philly shell in his own way, but it's just kind of a style he's invented over the years, and he's continued to add tools to. But it's something that he's just built in sparring, which is kind of cool. It's a live combat scenario style, and I kind of like that. It's very strange, very different, very hard to deal with. He has a lot of good linear attacks. One thing that I don't like about Sean Strickland is when he lets his hands go when he's trying to throw power. Sometimes he'll throw really big looping shots, like he will extend his arm and kind of come way over the top. If you look at the last round of the Dricus du Plessis fight, but if you look at the shot he fucking almost knocked out Israel Adesanya with, it's very just boom, clear, straight down the pike. So he has the ability to be extremely technical, but sometimes he can just, say fuck it and let it fly. Sean Strickland has some losses on his career. Both of these guys do. And Sean Strickland's losses, when they're bad, he loses by knockout. Look at Alex Pereira. Don't think that was the most high fight IQ thing, but Sean Strickland is also humble enough to go and get the proper training. He went and trained with Alex Pereira, and they're buddies now after he got knocked out by him. Sean Strickland may have the best vision in this division, and he may have some of the best vision in the UFC period, when I'm seeing shots coming, being able to deflect, roll. He does a really good job rolling on punches, really, really good job rolling with shots, really, really good jab. And he's really, really good at backing his opponents up, keep that lead leg high, check a bunch of kicks. He's a really good kick checker. And he's really good at forward pressure. He's really good at cutting off the cage. He has good footwork, good forward pressure, good jab. And when he starts throwing that straight right behind his jab, he can give people a lot of problems. Paulo Costa is a dude that is a really good fighter on the front foot. Really, really good big left hook. Look what he did to Uriah Hall. He's given a lot of fighters a lot of problems with that left hook. Johnny Hendricks, even though Johnny Hendricks looked terrible. But he's got a lot of big power. Look at the Yoel Romero fight where he buzzed Romero right against with his back against the cage with that big left hook. And this is a fight where he could give Sean Strickland a lot of problems. I think this fight you can kind of almost dumb it down to whoever's on the front foot is probably going to win this fight. Whoever is pushing forward, not getting clipped up and landing their shots. Will it be the forward pressure, the oh my God, I can't speak today. Kick checking of Sean Strickland with his jab and that forward pressure? Or will it be the big winding hooks and the big body kicks of someone like Paulo Costa? I think the odds make sense because especially how Sean Strickland has looked against the top of the division compared to Paulo Costa, where, you know, his big step ups, he beat Yoel Romero, but he lost to Izzy and got knocked out, and he just lost to Robert Whittaker. And you start playing MMA math, but I think you kind of have to do that when it comes to betting odds, where Sean Strickland just went to war and arguably beat Duplessis. Duplessis knocked out Robert Whittaker, kind of beat him with ease, and Robert Whittaker beat Paulo Costa last time out. So it's a tough fight to pick. I think Sean Strickland wants to fight for a title again. And I don't know how much Paulo Costa cares about a title fight. I think whoever wins this fight can be pushed and, you know, chauffeured into a title fight. Hard fight to call because Paulo Costa did look good last time out. USADA is gone. But I'm going to pick Sean Strickland here. I think Sean Strickland may have a tough first round, just like Robert Whittaker did, but this is also a 5-round fight, 5-round co-main event. And I think that's where it really starts to pay dividends for someone like Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland can make his reads and he can really start to break people down, especially if he gets on that front foot and really gets behind that jab. Paulo Costa does not have the best defense, and a lot of his defense is to close his eyes and throw hooks back. I think Sean Strickland needs to get on the front foot, check the kicks, stick him with the jab, cause him to overswing that left hook, and then once he overswings that left hook, just line him up with the straight shot down the pike. Do not fucking brawl with Paulo Costa. You need to, I hate to say this because this is a fight where Sean Strickland's going to really, he has to be on his ones and twos. You know, a lot of jabs, a lot of crosses, a lot of jabs, a lot of crosses, 3 jabs to 1 cross, 3 jabs to 1 cross, double up your jab, triple up your jab, and throw the cross when it's there. Otherwise, stay the fuck out of dodge. I think that's how he wins this fight. I think he could actually probably break down Paulo Costa. Sean Strickland has incredible cardio, really, really good work ethic. And I just think he kind of cares more about winning fights than Paulo Costa. So give me Sean Strickland as the 2-1 favorite here to win this fight. I'm going to go by decision, but I think in the 4th or 5th round, he may buzz Paulo Costa up and put him in trouble. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the main event of UFC 302. This fight card is headlined by Islam Makhachev and Dustin Poirier. One of these guys is a huge favorite on this card, and it's Islam Makhachev. Odds on this fight, Islam is a minus 470 favorite. Dustin Poirier is coming back at a plus 360 dog. And these odds do make sense. The odds... This is a really huge fight for the UFC's lightweight division. And it's kind of an old dog versus new dog-ish fight. There's a very funny interview about 7-8 years ago about, I think Ariel Helwani maybe questioning Dustin Poirier of what he thinks of a guy named Islam Makhachev, who was like just making his UFC debut at the moment. And Dustin's like, I don't know who that is, but I'll fight him. Here we are in 2024. Where Dustin Poirier is kind of has never left. And Islam Makhachev has surged and made his way all the way up to the title, fought for the title, and looked extremely dominant and looking like the Khabib protege that he is. Both of these guys are coming off of really impressive fights. We're going to start with Dustin Poirier. He's coming off of that incredible knockout against Benoit Saint Denis where, you know, I hate to say this, but the more I look at that fight, especially watching tape, listening to Matt Brown in his corner, Dustin Poirier seems to be at a point in his career where he's had the tough losses, and now it just almost seems like he just wants to do cool shit, which is a little bit scary fighting someone like Islam, but he didn't respect Benoit Saint Denis at all. He's just like, I want to guillotine this dude. He jumped guillotine over and over again. Mike Brown is in his corner saying, hey, dude, please stop jumping guillotine. He's like, I can get it. And then once he realized he couldn't get it, he's just like, I'll just knock this dude out really quick. Check hook, multiple shots, immediately finishes Benoit Saint Denis after he tried to jump guillotine a million times and had a way crazier fight than he needed to. His poor wife in the crowd watching him. You know, don't do that to your fans and the people that love you, Dustin. It's a scary way to fight. Before that, he looked good in the first round against Justin Gaethje, and then he got head kicked. Prior to that, he, kind of had a war against Michael Chandler, but the fight actually wasn't that close upon rewatch multiple times. Michael Chandler hit him with a head clash, and he almost finished Chandler at the end of the first round. Second round, got out wrestled. Third round, went out there and submitted him. Looked really great there. Lost to Charles Oliveira, but kind of gave Charles a lot more trouble than anyone really did during Charles Oliveira's kind of title run there. Dropped them multiple times, completely outstruck Charles Oliveira. He had those 2 knockouts against Conor McGregor, and then that incredible war with Dan Hooker. The dude has fought everybody. Wars at Max Holloway, wars at Eddie Alvarez, the fight with Khabib, Anthony Pettis, you name it. The dude's fought everybody under the sun. Moving on to Islam Makhachev. Dude is coming off of an incredible knockout win. If you're an Alexander Volkanovski fan, you can almost blame Islam for the demise of Volk. But that head kick of Alexander Volkanovski in their second fight was an incredible, perfectly set up, perfectly timed, blew his whole eyebrow up with one head kick in the first round, and then finished him with a crazy amount of ground and pound. Before that, he had that war with Volkanovski where he performed better than Volkanovski performed a lot better than people expected. However, I actually don't think it was that close of a fight. Like in the fifth round, Volk did win. But if you go back and watch the tape, you see a bunch of people online, a bunch of chatter, people that think Volk won. But go back and watch the fight. If you scoring it round by round, Islam clearly wins that one. Beat Charles Oliveira in super dominant fashion, hit him with a fucking check hook and submitted him. That was really awesome. Kimura, Dan Hooker, rear naked choke, Thiago Moises, arm triangle against Drew Dober, decision against Avi Ramos. His only loss is Adriano Martins, where he overswung Martins, hit him with the right hook, and completely floored him. His only loss is by knockout. Everything else is just, squeaky clean record for Islam. Islam, and I called him the Khabib protege, but he's very different than Khabib. He's a much more, first off, he's a much better striker than Khabib ever was. Maybe not as powerful, but understands striking setups a lot better, much more of a dexterous kicker, much better kicks, has just cleaner punching in general, and much more willing to. Khabib was never scared to stand and bang, but Islam is a much more methodical striker, willing to kind of take a little bit more risks in the pocket. He had a lot of success in the first fight with Volk, striking with him, dropped him to a knee multiple times, a lot of success in the boxing. But when it comes to the grappling, he is number one, I don't think he's athletic or as strong as Khabib. And number two, his ground game is a lot more methodical. It's kind of like putting pieces to a puzzle together where, he's doing this, isolating the wrist, trapping your wrist, just putting a puzzle together to finally end you with the submission, where Khabib was just like Dagestani handcuff, get control, be athletic, and punch your fucking head off. With ground and pound, Islam has decent ground and pound, but he's much more submission based when he's on the ground, but very controlling and very good there. Islam also has really, really good trip takedowns in the clinch. He will get underhooks against somebody, hit him with a knee to the body, bait a knee from his opponent. The second you're on one leg, boom, hit you with a trip takedown. He's got really good judo or sambo, really, really good sambo trips. That's probably one of the most dangerous places for Dustin Poirier in a fight like this, is in the clinch with Islam. For Dustin Poirier, can knock out any lightweight on the planet. He is that good. He has that good of boxing. Southpaw, his check right hook is, something to be studied. It's incredible. Pound for pound, one of the best punchers in the UFC, one of the most crafty boxers. His chin is a little bit but the dude's got like 40-something pro fights. That's just, what it is. He's a dog. He never gives up on himself. He could be down 4 rounds. He could be out wrestled for 4 rounds and still in the 5th round come out and still try to do his thing. Fight like this, Islam Makhachev is going to have a lot of success at kicking range. Dustin Poirier just got knocked out in this fight prior to this one via head kick. And I think as crafty as someone like Justin Gaethje can be, I think Islam has even better setups and is more crafty than Justin Gaethje. Islam just head kick Volk. Justin Gaethje just recently head kicked Dustin Poirier. So I think the kicks are a big thing for Dustin Poirier to look out for. Also the clinch, he needs to avoid the clinch. He can't take the back foot in this fight. And that's something that he likes to do, which is really just strange because Dustin Poirier is not a great front foot fighter. He's really, really good when you're moving on to him. If you put him against the cage, he's really, really good at, boom, landing that check right hook, spinning around, and then start landing his barrage of punches on you. If Islam Makhachev goes out there and gets too confident and wants to have a boxing, inside a kicking range, striking match with Dustin Poirier, it's going to give him problems. Anybody can give him problems. And Islam Makhachev is good, but he's not the best striker. And he's not strike for strike, you put boxing gloves on these guys and you say no takedowns. Makhachev may win, but I'd be putting all my money on Dustin Poirier in a fight like that. But Dustin Poirier for him to have success, he needs to not get corralled against the cage and get wrestled. But he also does his best work with his back against the cage. So it kind of puts him in a bad spot. He doesn't want to be at kicking range, but he doesn't want to be at clinching range. He really needs this fight to be in boxing range to be successful. And again, that just puts him in a really tricky spot because he operates the best off the back foot, but him getting on the back foot gets him against the cage and allows Islam to wrestle and allows Islam to put hands on him as far as a clinch. There's a really, really small window where Dustin Poirier finds his success in this fight. And that's why you have to pick Islam Makhachev here. I really like both these fighters. So I kind of hate this fight because I'm a huge Dustin Poirier fan and I'm a really big Islam Makhachev fan as well. But you got to pick Islam here. Islam just has more tools, more ways to win. The odds reflect that as well. Islam Makhachev can fight this whole entire fight at kicking range if he wants to and just out kick Dustin Poirier and out move him. Or what I think he's going to do is try to get inside the boxing range, get close, get his hands on him, get him against the clinch. We know that Dustin Poirier is a willing back foot fighter, willing to take the back foot. Islam pushes him against the cage, takes him down, and kind of does what Khabib did with less ground and pound and more emphasis on submission. Dustin Poirier cannot jump guillotine here. Dustin Poirier really needs to work on his rear hand uppercut. And I really think he needs to work on his angles here. He cannot let Islam get into the clinch with him. That's where a lot of his takedowns come from. And I think that's where Islam is really going to be looking to be, is in the clinch. Give me Islam by third round submission. But I would love to see Dustin Poirier win this fight. If Dustin Poirier wins by knockout, I'd probably scream so loud that my neighbors will call the cops. Dustin Poirier has said he doesn't know if this is his last time out. If he loses via stoppage here, he's going to retire. Dustin Poirier doesn't really need to fight anymore. He's got all the money. He's got all the accolades. He's got everything besides a UFC undisputed belt, interim champion. I mean, and you almost feel for the guy for not achieving that, but he's achieved so much. He's one of the best lightweights to ever exist, in my opinion. One of the best strikers to ever exist. And for a dude that just kind of came from nothing in Louisiana to make this of his life, he still needs to be proud of himself. But yes, Islam Makhachev for the win. That is the show. Check the kick, Sherdog.com. We're back, boys and girls. I'll be back with another episode next week, recapping this. And then I might actually have to take another week off, unfortunately, because I'll be traveling for work, but I'll see if I could squeeze a late show in. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Do all the stuff, like, subscribe, whatever. Follow me on my social medias. Literally all my social media is right here. So just go to those places if you want to follow me. I post a lot of fishing shit. But shoot me a follow, drop a comment, drop a like, subscribe to Sherdog.com. That's the show. Enjoy the fights.